where you're like, I'm a sexual being, I'm interested in you sexually, I don't give a shit, and I'm just going to tell you straight up. And when you do that, not only does it show you a lot of confidence, you get a lot of fucking balls when you can say that to a girl, and that in itself is attractive. But women are just as sexual as guys. You know, they're thinking the same shit we are when they're talking to dudes. You know, it's like, I wonder how big his dick is, or, you know, whatever. They're thinking the same stuff.
They're just trained not to talk about it.
They're just trained not to talk about it. It's socially unacceptable.
Exactly.
And so when you act on that stuff, you're kind of showing a little bit of social intelligence as well. Anyway, so that's a way you can set a sexual frame. You always want to have lines in your head so that if you do ever sort of have like a brain fart, there's at least something you can just throw out of your mouth that you know will work. For instance, the one that I used on the TV show, the Keys to the VIP, the drug dealer line. Which people tend to assume you have to look like a drug dealer for it to work, but you don't. In fact, the less you look like a drug dealer, I find the better it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we call an opener, and it goes like, "Hey guys, I need you guys' help on something. Do you guys think I look like a drug dealer?" And then whatever they answer. All right. I've been in the bar for like an hour and a half, and so far 3 different girls who came up to me and been like, "Hey, do you have any weed?" And as soon as I say no, they're all like, "Okay, never mind." And they get all pissed off. So I'm thinking maybe I look like a drug dealer. What do you guys think? You guys think I look like a drug dealer? And then, you know, they'll give me their opinion, and then I'll say, "All right, my real question is this: do guys ever come up to you and want something, and when they realize they can't get it, they get pissed off?" And then girls will always be like, "Yes." And I'll say, "I know, it's like your life story, right? All right, I know totally how you feel. We're like best friends now. Here, give me a high five." And then, so that's the opener. After you do an opener, you always want to transition, right? Openers are good to talk about for like 30 seconds to a minute, depending on how long they are.
Right.
But they suck as you know, 5-minute conversations, right? So you have to do something what we call a transition. A transition is just to get you into a regular sort of thread of conversation. The best transition that I can give you is just, "Hey, so how do you guys know each other? What are you guys, like best friends or something?" "Yeah, I can tell. You guys make the exact same phrase expressions when you talk." "See, you just did it right there." And usually they'll look at each other when you say that.
Right.
See, like right there. And then they'll be like, "Ah!" But after that, you want to go into what we call interactive value demonstrations. Is a technical way of
interactive value demonstrations.
Yeah, basically you're gonna show them that you're like a cool, interesting guy by some little games you can play. For instance, if you look at your index finger and your ring finger, your ring finger is longer than your index finger. It means you have more testosterone. And just, you know, the opposite, if your index finger is longer than your ring finger, it means you have more estrogen. Most guys tend to have a longer ring finger. Yeah, so your ring finger is a little, they're kind of close though. Yeah, you may be in tune with your female side. But essentially, you can play these little games with girls, you know, and say like, "Hey, give me your hands, guys, let me see this." And then if they all have, let's say they all have, you know, a longer ring finger, you're like, what are you guys, like the women's basketball team or something? What's going on here? Or, right. You know, if they have the all shorter ring fingers, you'd be like, what am I, on The View or something? What's going on?
Right.
And just, you know, you want to tease them a little bit. Basically be a guy that is fun to talk to, you know, and is interesting and can you know, keep the conversation going and making it fun. And then from there, I mean, you're in comfort, you know. Comfort's all about building commonalities, building a connection, you know, establishing rapport and getting to know the real yous, you know, the real each other's. That's how you get a girl to answer her phone when you call her. You know, too many guys get a number, they don't go into comfort, you know.
And they're gone.
And they're, a lot of the time, sometimes they'll answer. I mean, if you're a good-looking guy, or maybe you went really sexual. Actually, if you go really sexual in a bar, that's usually a mistake, because what happens is they'll get something called buyer's remorse. Or when you call them next time, like you make out with her in a club and shit, you call her the next day or 2 days later or whatever, and all of a sudden she doesn't have those feelings anymore, and it's like, oh, that's the guy that I made out with in the club. If I meet up with him, he's just gonna want to, you know, start right at making out again.
Right.
And that's kind of uncomfortable. And that's why they don't answer the phone. But the way to get around that is to build a connection with them. You don't want to be guy number 87 from the bar. You want to be, you know, Mark, who hosts a TV show and, you know, has dreams and has aspirations and that sort of stuff. And that's how you become a real person in their minds instead of this random guy from the bar.
Natural game. What's that about?
Natural game is something I've been focusing on more. I used to be very into routines, and when you do routines long enough, you start realizing that it's not the routines that are attracting the women. It's sort of the underlying beliefs you have about those routines, and this confidence, and that sort of directly relates to natural game. Like I always ask my female friends, what is the best pickup? You know, what is the best line a guy has ever said to you?
Right.
They all say the same thing, and that is, the best line that a guy has ever used on them is when they were in a situation, usually, where they weren't expected to get hit on, and a guy's just come up to them and very, very honest and just said simply, listen, I think you're really cute. I would kick myself in the ass if I didn't come over and say, introduce myself. So, how you doing? I'm Derek. Nice to meet you. Listen, I gotta go, but you should give me your number. I'd love to talk to you again sometime. Right? It's not like some crazy line or anything like this. It's just a very
simple, yeah.
It's a simple, like, natural line, and women love that stuff. That is how women want to be picked up. They'll go home and they'll like call their friends and be like, oh my God, you're not gonna believe what happened. The cutest guy came up to me and was like, I think you're cute, and anyway, he was so cute, and I gave him my number, and oh my God, and like girls never really get hit on like that, They do, but it's very rare unless they're tremendously beautiful. And that is probably the best way that you can actually attract a woman, especially in the daytime, when women aren't really used to getting hit on.